In today's video, I'm going to show you some tips and tricks for working with a paper pattern, in particular a multi-size and multi-garment pattern to prolong the lifespan for you by tracing a copy of it. If you have used a paper sewing pattern, you'll understand the frustration of dealing with this very large, easy to tear paper. So I will be working with the Vogue V888 today. It has 5 garments included and 5 sizes. I've owned this for years now and I've made multiple garments from it, but I have yet to make the robe. So that's what I'm going to prepare to make today. To begin, consult your pattern information, find out the pattern pieces you need and figure out your size. I find it helpful to jot down in my notepad the parts I need to cut when it's like this with 30 plus parts to search through. Unfold your paper carefully, one at a time. Work on a flat surface such as a table or the floor, and I highly encourage you to get yourself an A1 cutting board. These are relatively cheap and they are perfect for working on both fabric and paper. I store this under my sofa when not in use, and it doubles up for wrapping presents, playing games, any type of crafting. It's just handy and protects your surfaces. I'll include a link below. As you unfold, you will notice it's very creased, so the first thing you do is iron your paper. Set your iron on the lowest setting, turn off the steam and press it flat. Get rid of the creases and crunches and get each piece laying flat. You find when you do this, it can fill the paper with static, but I find this helps me later laying the pieces out flat because it clings to my fabric or paper for tracing. What to do next is personal preference. First, to cut or to trace. If you're working with a vintage pattern or an out-of-print rare pattern, then tracing is just a given. It preserves the historic pattern and it is something you don't have to worry about as you work with them. You have a copy, stored correctly somewhere safe, you aren't going to lose or damage. Don't cut up something you can't ever replace. Now, if it's a modern pattern, it's up to you. If you sew for only yourself and the pattern is easy to find or something you'll likely only ever make the once, do you really need to trace? Just ask if you're creating a lot of work for yourself for no reason. Even if the pattern you'll reuse, consider if you are actually better to wait for the pattern sale and just buy a couple of copies for a few pence each. This is personal preferences and I'm not saying which method is right or wrong. I do both within my own collection. If you choose to trace, the second decision, which again is based on your personal preference, is to keep the whole sheets or to cut to individual sections. You even need to cut your sheets into individual pattern pieces or groups of smaller ones. There is no right or wrong here. Smaller sections are easier to move around and you can work with just one at a time, but the full sheets uncut are going to weather better long term and are better for selling on at a future date if you ever decide to declutter your collection. This pattern I hacked apart as a novice sewer, but now I would not do this. As you work, if you come across a rip like this is a super vulnerable spot. This is a place that will just rip all the way across if you're not careful. So take the opportunity to fix this. So cut away any stragglers or tape it up so it's secure. When you have your parts prepared, you can trace them. There are 2 methods I will show you today, using regular paper and then tracing paper. So regular paper you can buy rolls like so. These are big, wide, large rolls. You can trace the full A1 sheet in one go with this. I'll leave a link below. Don't worry if you don't have this, you can use regular paper and tape it together using masking tape. Masking tape over regular clear tape is better because you can draw over it. The easiest parts to copy are anything that is rectangle or square. Start with these and simply measure the pattern and recreate it on your paper. Make sure you copy all notes, marks, notches, labels and instructions. Copy everything for your size. It's easier to ignore a mark that's not relevant to you later than drag all your paper back out to get one notch. You can draw all these together on one sheet, save paper and share lines to keep things square. Cut them out and they're done. But how to trace non-regular shapes? Lay out your pattern part, then set your paper so it covers it completely. This is where you realise that you cannot see the lines below. They're too faint to distinguish sizes, and it hurts your eyes to do a full 4 sheets like this. So what you need to invest in is a light pad. These are thin, light-up sheets. This one here is A4. You can get them in larger sizes, they aren't that expensive. This one has different brightness, it is lightweight, and it charges on a regular mini USB and holds a 4-hour battery. You slide this underneath and now you can see everything lights up. Trace everything visible to you. Then slide the light pad down to the next section, leaving enough details overlap so you can confirm you haven't let the paper shift. If you're working on a pattern piece such as a skirt with very little details over a large section and you're going to struggle to find details to match, all you have to do is create details. For me, I take a pencil and I create a zigzag shape across the pattern. I then trace this with my pattern and match it up after I move my light box. If you don't have a light box, you can make do with a tablet, iPad screen with a white picture showing. It's not perfect, but it works in a pinch if you don't have money to spend right now. Please be careful as you work that you're not using pens or anything super sharp that will mark and harm your tablet screen. This is just a cheat for those really desperate or in a time crunch. Another cheat, if you have it, is to tape the layers up to a window in the day. You'll need a large pane of glass with no interruptions like lead lines or handles. Again, this isn't great in the winter when you have no light in the evenings after work, but it's a temporary help for those with limited resources. Now, a second way is probably the way you did it as a kid, using tracing paper. But instead of sheets, buy these long rolls. Lay them over your pattern and then join them up in strips till you cover the whole piece. Always get your paper large enough to cover it all before you begin tracing. You can then use weights to secure it and nothing will shift for you. Trace it in the familiar method. You can see through the paper easy. I like to use pencil. I find pen smears on me, but you may have a suggestion for what you find is best for drawing on tracing paper. If you don't have tracing paper, a cheaper alternative is a roll of baking parchment paper. You will get this at most stores. It has a waxier texture and I find the tape doesn't stick to it as firmly as the tracing paper, but it does the job. You can use a coloured pen to draw around the side you intend to trace if you are struggling to see which line is relevant to you. Of course, this isn't recommended on a vintage one-of-a-kind pattern, as it will damage the pattern. Another way to remember your line choice is to count how many lines in your size is from the pattern's largest or smallest size. These are usually the solid line you'll be able to see on your pattern key. Find them, count in, then just follow the line round with your pencil. One of the harder activities people encounter is getting the pattern back inside its envelope. I lay my envelope on the table and then fold each piece in turn so it measures smaller than the envelope. I place this on top, checking the size and use a weight to squash it. Over time these will go flat again, but right now they will be bulked up. I usually store all the original pattern in the envelope it came in with the pattern instructions. I then get an A4 envelope. Inside this, I store my traced copy of my size. On the front of the envelope, I fill it with all the details: the pattern name, number, size I've traced, garment I'm making. I usually copy the pattern cover and stick this on the front too. I then also include making notes as I work on my sewing project. So for example, this particular robe, when I went on to make it after this video, I did not like the construction method used on the pockets. I found it left me with exposed raw seams when the rest of my garment was impeccably finished with French seams. So I'll add a note to change this so future me knows not to make that mistake again. You can leave a note on the sizing, the fit adjustments you've made, the fabric you've used and how much you needed. Any details that when you pull this envelope back out of storage in 4 years' time, you may need to know. So I hope this video has helped you feel more confident using paper patterns and get a system that allows you to use patterns repeatedly without worrying that you cut the wrong size or you're making for multiple people without buying over again. Again, I've added links below for everything mentioned, so check them out if you want more details. This video was a request from one of my followers. If you have anything you would like to see, feel free to leave a comment. I always try my best to fulfill them. Please hit the thumbs up if you've learned something today, or give me a follow if you want to see more videos on sewing. In the meantime, happy sewing!